Hi, this is Mrs. A, and I have the Mountaineer Problem, and this is from the study guide, problem number 22. A mountain climber is scaling a 500-foot cliff. The graph on the right shows the elevation of the climber over time. So we can see over time that the mountain climber is increasing in elevation, so he's going up the mountain. Now the question is, find and interpret the slope and the y-intercept of the graph. So we learned that a linear equation is of the form y is equal to mx plus b. And we know that m is equal to slope and b is equal to the y-intercept. So, if we have the formula that we have that was given to us over here, we can find the slope and the y-intercept from that. So we have f of x is equal to 125x plus 50. Well, my slope is going to be 125, and let's make that a little smaller. My y-intercept is going to be 50. Okay, so I would say m is equal to 125, and that's 125 feet, feet per hour. And my b, my y-intercept, is going to be equal to 50. And that's going to be elevation, 50 feet. I could look at the graph too. I did that all from the equation, and I didn't want to get too much into it and cause any confusion, but just realized I could have also looked at the graph. And if you look at the graph and you think about where that y-intercept is, that would have been right over here. So actually, let's keep it in orange. So our y-intercept, if we just look at the graph, we can see it's about 50. But that's not very precise, right? And we definitely got 50 if we use the equation. When we look at the graph, we're kind of estimating that it goes to 50. And the slope, that gets even harder to look at from the graph because of the way that the lines fall. So, for example, if I need to get the slope, remember, slope is m is equal to the change in y over the change in x. That's the same thing as saying a point y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if I picked 2 points, so those 2 points would be x1, y1, x2, y2. Let's pick 2 points. And it's kind of hard because I want to make sure they're integers so that the math isn't that complex. You know, I could say like that's P1, and I could say that over here is P1. But no matter what, my points are going to be a little bit tricky. I have to, be careful with the math because of the increase, but I could still do it. And so the increase here is, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So the increase here would be like 300. And then that would be the change in y. The change in x would be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 0.4, which is 2.4. So my slope, if I was to calculate it out, it would be equal to 300 over 2.4, which is actually equal to 125. Okay, so I don't know if that's helpful, but just realize you can calculate the slope from the graph, and you can calculate, the slope from the function. I hope that helps a little. So explain 2 ways to find f of 3. So again, it's the same concept. We can use the equation, or we could use the graph. This time, let me use the graph first. And let's see, so we were doing graph in purple. So let's say graph. So if I was going to find f of 3, now remember, f of 3 is f of x. So that means that such that x is equal to 3. So f of 3. So we're looking for 3 on the x value, on the x-axis. And that would be right here. Okay? And so if I was going to look at that in the graph, you can see it gets me to about, it's a little tricky, right? Because it's not exactly falling on a line. But if I had to guess, I would say about, let's see, it's about 425 feet. So what that means is in 3 hours, the climbers made it to 425 feet. Now let's see the equation. We're going to get it much more accurate if we use the equation. So let's do that. If we say f of 3 is equal to 125 times 3, we're just substituting in our 3 for the value of x, plus 50. Well, let's see. F of 3 is equal to 3 times 125 is 375 plus 50. Oh, look at that. It was 425. 375 plus 50 is 425. So that's how I would do it. Solve that using the equation. Hope that's helpful. And that's how I would do it using the graph. Now, how long does it take the climber to reach the top of the cliff? Well, they told us right in the problem. You have to always remember, look back to the problem. A mountain climber is scaling a 500-foot cliff. So I know that the highest point of this cliff is 500. And so, again, if I look at it in the graph, I'm just going to look at 500 feet. And I'm going to go across until I get to the number of hours. The number of hours would be 3.2 to 4. See, that's about 3.6. So if I had to look at that graph, I would say that that's 3.6 hours. Now let's compare that to the equation. So if we put the equation with, so f of 3, so remember, let's just write this out again. We have f of x is equal to 125x plus 50, right? And so, and again, this is the equation approach. So if they give us the top of the cliff, which is 500, remember that's our f of x, elevation, feet. So the 500 goes over here, and that's going to be 500 is equal to 125x plus 50, and then we're going to solve for x. Okay, so we're going to subtract 50 from each side. That gives us 450, which is equal to 125x. We're going to divide each side by 125. And let me move that up a little. Divide each side by 125. And that's going to get us x is equal to, let's see, 425, it goes in 1, 2, 3, 75. So that goes in 3 times. And that's 375, so that's remainder 75. And 125 goes into 756 times. Yep, that gives me the 3.6 hours again. So you can do that I did that mental math. You can use your calculator, or you can use long division to divide the 125 into the 450, and you'll see that it comes to 3.6 hours. Okay, so you can see again, both the graph and the equation both equal out. It's just sometimes it seems like if we use the graph, we might not be able to get an exact answer. We might be getting an approximate answer, whereas the equation is always going to give us the exact answer. Hope that's helpful. Have a wonderful day. Let me know if you have any